That's our history. Buildings and people and memories and dreams. Who better to tell us than those who were there? There's so much to learn from the stories they'll share.
Living history. Living history.
Hello, I'm Ted Goldsboro, and this is a history program called Living History. And today we have really pleased to have Patrick McCabe. Patrick McCabe Jr., is it?
Yes, it is. Patrick McCabe, Patrick J. McCabe Jr., precisely.
And Patrick is a lifelong resident of Lower Merion, except for his college and military time, the same as happened to me. Mm-hmm. And we are going to be talking about Stone and Rock Hill Quarry and some of the construction projects that the McCabe brothers got into and Pat's family. And so let's go, Pat.
Okay.
I was going to ask, or I am asking you, about the quarry when you were a kid. How was the stone gotten out of the face, the quarry face?
Sure. The first step in the procedure, of course, was to strip the area of any overburden of dirt and give you a clean surface. And then what they decided to do would be to drill holes with a air compressor, jackhammer, so deep into the rock face from above, and then fill them with dynamite and set a fuse and drop a certain section on the quarry floor. This depended on what their needs were from time to time and the way the rock face was laid out by nature, be a big shot or a small shot or a medium shot. And in those days, to do that, they would put flagmen out on the street, block the road, and let her go. And stone would fly everywhere. Now, back in those days, there weren't many substantial buildings around, but every building had corrugated metal tin roofs to protect them. Sometimes they weren't really effective.
Wow.
I recall one time, I don't recall whether I was around for this or I heard about it through lore. When our friends across the street, the Lenties, came to Rock Hill Road to start quarrying on their property, they set off a shot, a big shot one day, that covered the entire street with rock. It was somebody goofed and put too much dynamite in the holes, and I think it was at least a week before the street was finally made open to traffic again. They had one steam shovel, McCabe's had 3, and everybody pitched in and went out and cleaned the street. But another part of my time with dynamite, you might say, was as a kid, referring to this picture that we just talked about, the pile of rocks that's situated like that. Sometimes the rocks were bigger than the men could conveniently work on, so they had to be further dynamited. So what they would do, Ted, is they would drill holes in each individual rock, put a little bit of dynamite in, set a fuse, and Tony the blacksmith, who was in charge of all this, would select a group of agile, quick men and boys, a boy, me, to light the fuses. So we would scamper over this rock pile, lighting fuses and running for cover. And I did that several times during my summers there, and it was one of the most enjoyable things. And nobody ever got hurt. It was a little dangerous, I think, but nobody ever got hurt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you tell the sound of like raining rocks? I mean, what?
Well, the pieces that flew up in the air, they were from fragments.
So they weren't too big.
To things the size of a football or something like that. Oh yeah, they would be that large, and there was damage done from time to time, but it wasn't. It was just a part of the business. You just dealt with it. like we
Now,
dealt
back
with
in the
many
old
things.
days, well, I guess we had jackhammers, but go back to the steam engine days, the steam shovel days. How would they drill the holes? What kind of equipment did they
Well,
have?
I don't recall how they would drill holes other than with air compressors that were
Okay.
gasoline-driven air compressors that created the power
Okay.
to propel the jackhammer.
Okay.
That's
This is
the
what we
way I
used to
know.
see in the street with a...
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, how would they get up to the top of the quarry to put the charger to drill the holes? I mean, how would you walk up there? Or how would you...
Well, that was laid out in such a way that it wasn't really all the way up to the very top.
Okay.
The blasting was done in such a way that the steam shovel would make their own road up to halfway up the hillside.
I think I've seen that, like a platform almost.
Yeah, a working road to
I
get to the next level.
I see.
So that
Okay.
was, and there were all kinds of roads like that when I was a kid that were temporary roads that were there for 15 years.
Sort of like getting logs out of the woods. You make a temporary road in there to help pull the logs out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Except we didn't have any helicopters like they do today.
Right. Well, I guess maybe in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, I had understood that some of the neighbors whose houses were up on the top, I don't know if it's Cornell Road or whatever it is, they were complaining because McCabe Brothers Dynamite was breaking windows and causing cracks in their house. And my first impulse was, why did you build a house or buy a house above a quarry?
That was a very interesting time. There was some cracked plaster in those homes from the dynamiting. It was a case of how much was cracked plaster because of McCabe Brothers rock and how much was deterioration because of just the way the homes were built. So that was a time where there was some legalese that was involved, and I don't think it was as serious a problem as it was ever made out to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have some other pictures of stone. Tell the audience here, my great-grandfather was a Scottish stonemason that came over from near Glasgow, and he worked in the old Capitol building in Albany, and he worked on St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. So I have an interest in stone.
Sure.
And I've asked Pat if he could describe for us a little more detail.
Sure.
This is the Percival Roberts estate back on Conshohocken State Road, and I would
Yes.
assume that was built around 1900, 1910, somewhere in there.
I
And
would
to
think
my
so.
knowledge, there isn't a crack in there.
That's a beautiful piece of period stonework from that era that is still as intact today. I marvel about that as
How come
I
it
go by.
survived? Now, what?
Good quality workmanship. Whatever the foundation was that was put in, there was probably a foundation of 2 or 3 feet deep, and the frost has never gotten below.
So the tree roots can't get under it and heave it.
Right, you see some trees right there that are right beside it, and that's on both sides, and the wall doesn't look like it's ever been repaired. Yeah.
What kind of stone might that be? A granite?
It's probably local stone. I would say not from McCabe's on Rock Hill Road, which is but it's only what 2 or 3 miles away. It's probably more local to exactly where it came from.
Okay.
There's the Penn Valley area is full of areas like that too. If you drive down what is it? Not Mary Watersford Road. No, it is Mary Watersford Road, right off of Conshohocken State. There are spots in the landscape down there where you can see the quarrying had taken place many years ago, and it was a different strata, slightly different in texture. If you look at that stone, they are almost like in the shape of blocks, and I don't think they were man carved, chiseled to get to that point. I think It was just.
I have
nature.
another, speaking about chiseling,
Yeah.
what are these marks in the stone?
Some people would say it's the dinosaur tracks. But you're going to test me on my geology whether I want to or not, right, Ted?
Yeah.
They're marks of certain types of chisels. If you look at the square ones, rectangular shaped ones, they're a chisel that's about that long, that has a flat point to it. The other ones are like scarifications or scores made by a more pointed instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Why they look like that, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Where is this wall? Or I should tell you.
Yeah,
you tell me.
You tell me.
Bryn Mawr College.
That's in Bryn Mawr
Yeah,
College.
yeah.
Okay.
And this stone also, and we learned from Jeff Cohen, Professor Jeff Cohen, who is a professor at Bryn Mawr College, that this stone, this rectangular block here, the stone came from Port Deposit, Maryland, from a quarry down there, a granite piece.
Right.
But I think it's so beautiful, and he had remarked, and I forgot to bring today, the stone that has little black flecks in it, sort of. Yeah, on City Avenue near the GSB building, I don't know, we were speaking about Williamson's restaurant used to be up on the top of the GSB building, but there's a wall on City Avenue, and the stone is really eroded or pockmarked, and I wondered what caused that.
Now, this is the City Avenue side,
Yes.
or is it the Belmont Avenue side?
It is, but it has happened on both sides.
It's probably, this deterioration is probably due to an excessive spreading of rock salt in the wintertime to clear up ice conditions. And if that rock salt does its job, but if the residue of it isn't cleared away in a reasonable time, it's going to create a situation like that that's going to eat away at the rock and everything around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Pat, we have to take a break, and when we come back, I'd like to talk about some of the construction projects that McCabe Brothers did. So we'll be back right after a break.
Thank you.